Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. We will be commencing our service in a few minutes, but before we do, could I please ask those of you who have a mobile phone if you could just check that it's switched off or placed on silent. Thank you.
You ask how much I need you. Must I explain? I need you, oh my darling, like roses need rain. You ask how long I'll love you. I'll tell you true, until the 12th of never, I'll still be loving you. Hold me close, never let me go. Hold me close, melt my heart like April snow. I'll love you till the bluebells forget to bloom. I'll love you till the clover has lost its perfume. I'll love you till the poets run out of rhyme, until the 12th of never, and that's a long, long time, until the 12th of never, and that's a long, long
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samantha Lysart, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all here this morning. It is a comfort for Bill, Chris, Steve and their family that you have gathered to say your farewells to their much-loved mother, wife, mother-in-law and nan, Patricia Jackson. A very happy, loving and selfless lady who has left behind many wonderful memories for you to preserve in her absence. This morning you'll hear some wonderful words and memories of Pat's life from her family and friends, as well as seeing some wonderful photos. Pat's loved ones would like to express their thanks and their gratitude for the kindness and compassion that you have given to them at this very difficult time in their lives. Your care and your concern is a huge source of comfort and pride to them all, and they also thank you all for your presence here today. It is deeply appreciated. Let us take a few moments now to think of those people who couldn't physically be here in the chapel today, either due to distance or due to other circumstance. We are joined via live stream by family members and friends in various locations. Whilst they may be separated by distance, they are not separated by heart. Their love, thoughts and prayers are with you all at this time, as of course yours is with them. Pat forged many different relationships and friendships in her life, and she played a very important role in many people's lives. Mainly, she is a loved wife of 62 years to her dear husband Bill, a loving mother and mother-in-law to Chris and Stephen Lee, and an adored nana to Kieran, Alicia and Ashley. She's a loved daughter to her late parents Fred and Lily, a loved sister and sister-in-law to Hazel and Peter, and a loving auntie to Stuart and Anthony. And Pat is also dearly loved by Bill's siblings and their extended families. And when it comes to friends, Pat had many. She was very close to the Esquilant family, as well as having many friends through her association with the Sports Sedan Association, Meals on Wheels and her tennis friends. But regardless of your connection to Pat, though, she's going to be sorely missed by both family and friends alike. I would now like to share a lovely reading with you all that has been chosen by the family for Pat's service here today. This is titled Sometimes, and it was written by Maggie Dent, and these words are in your order of service if you wish to follow. Sometimes on our journey through life, we meet people who leave footprints on our mind. They challenge us to see things differently and to question our personal reality. Sometimes on our journey through life, we meet people who leave footprints on our heart. They create a safe place for us to open our hearts to feel loved and special. Then sometimes on our journey through life, we meet people who leave footprints on our souls. They share themselves with us so profoundly that they touch the very essence of who we are in that secret, quiet place. Pat has left gentle footprints on the minds, hearts and souls of everyone here today. May we always remember the beauty of her love, her kindness and the special ways that she touched our lives. Pat's family have written a lovely story of her life, and I would now like to read those words on their behalf. Patricia, or Pat as we all knew her, was born on the 17th of March 1940, St Patrick's Day, to Fred and Claire Sharman in the East End of London. At the age of 11, the family moved into a terrace house in Barking, Essex. Pat spoke fondly of her childhood in this house. The house backed onto a railway line and had a small back garden. Pat spoke about spending her early childhood playing with a pet turtle and a cat she liked to dress up. However, the cat ran away with all her dolly clothes and was never seen again. Pat is survived by her younger sister Hazel, who is living in the UK with her husband and 2 sons. Upon leaving school in 1955, at the age of 15, she worked in a printing factory as an apprentice bookbinder. Pat met the love of her life, Bill, as you all know him, in November 1957 at a local dance, and from that point on, the two were inseparable. As Pat's parents never owned a car, she rarely ventured more than a few kilometres from home, other than the occasional family holiday via train. That soon changed as Bill was the proud owner of a 1952 Morris Minor. As a young woman of only 17, Pat felt like royalty on the outings with Bill in his car during many day trips. Pat and Bill courted for 3 years before becoming husband and wife on the 3rd of September 1960, where they married at Barking Abbey, Essex. When they learnt that this was the same church Captain James Cook was married in, it sparked a keen interest to learn about Australia. Shortly after their wedding, Bill accepted a work promotion which would have them relocate to a house in Birmingham. The promotion allowed Pat and Bill to save for a holiday, and 12 months later they went on a 9-continent tour. Pat recounted the trip on many occasions, which was one of her fondest memories, visiting Switzerland and a train ride to the ice castle inside a mountain and seeing strawberries growing in the local fields. In 1964, after a particularly cold winter, Australia again entered their minds. The thought of a new life in a country with warm weather and sunshine led the couple to make an application to move to Australia. On the 6th of January 1966, Pat and Bill welcomed their first son, Christopher, and within weeks of his birth, the Australian government approved the family's immigration request, subsequently booking their passage to Australia on the migrant ship Fairsea, departing on the 1st of April 1966. The young family, complete with an 11-week-old baby, departed the UK for a new life in Sydney. The 6-week voyage to Australia was incredibly difficult for Pat, as she was violently seasick for the entire trip. This led her to vow to never to travel by boat again, referring to them as rotten things. Upon arrival in Australia, the family moved into an apartment at Neutral Bay. Bill commenced work a few weeks later, leaving Pat to explore their new homeland. She loved to take Christopher for walks to the nearby beach with her big old English pram that she loved. Shortly after Bill started his new job, he was introduced to a young engineer named Les Esquilant. Les invited Bill and his family over to their home in Bexley for a barbecue, where they met his wife Lorraine and young son Jeffrey. Who would have known this moment would start a lifelong family friendship that is now in its 57th year? Pat treasured this friendship immensely right to the end. In 1966, I think that date might be wrong there actually, Pat and Bill purchased land in Carlingford. Was right, my apologies, I was just purchased land in Carlingford and built a new home where they lived and they would raise their boys. On the 29th of October 1967, Pat and Bill welcomed their second son, Stephen, the first Australian-born member of the Jackson family and a brother to Christopher. Pat was always on the go and she loved helping people. She engaged in many activities such as volunteer driver for Meals on Wheels and transporting the elderly within the community. She ran after-school classes at the boys' primary school in Woodwork and helped the boys' soccer team. Many of you will know Pat from car race weekends where Christopher raced. Pat and Bill cooked the Sunday after race barbecue and was always ready to offer a nice cup of tea as a remedy to any problem. In 2007, Pat and Bill won the New South Wales Sports Sedan Association President's Award for their dedication to the club. Over the years, Pat was blessed with 3 beautiful grandchildren, Kieran in 1994, Alicia in 1995 and Ashley in 1997. Pat and Bill regularly took all 3 grandkids out for the day to many Sydney attractions during school holidays. Pat and Bill were always there as their grandchildren grew up, being everything loving and proud grandparents should be. Pat loved to sew. You would always find her making or fixing something for the caravan, kids, dogs or anything else that needed repair with her sewing machine. Her sewing skills led her to become known as the Nana Hospital, where the dogs' soft toys would go to be repaired and holes sewn up, only to be returned a week later for more repairs. In 2006, after selling their home in Carlingford, Pat and Bill moved to a 5-acre property in Wilton, followed by Steve, Lee and the girls. This allowed them to see the girls daily and be closer to Chris and Kieran, which Pat loved dearly. Pat and Bill also loved their caravan, and as members of the Caravan Club of Australia, they travelled most of the country in their retirement years. One of Pat's favourite activities was the blindfolded trailer backing competition, where in the reversal of roles, the husband would be the backseat driver and direct the wife while she was blindfolded. For 5 years in succession, Pat won the competition. It would have been interesting reading if an insurance claim had ever been made. Pat made many good friends caravanning, keeping in touch after her illness progressed. Pat and Bill also owned an on-site caravan in the New South Wales snowfields. Who would have thought that after leaving a cold, miserable England, that Pat would become an avid cross-country skier and enjoy the snow so much? Many weekends and school holidays were spent with Bill and the boys skiing to remote cabins in the snowy mountains. It is impossible to condense a person's life into just 5 minutes, but throughout her life, Pat enjoyed 2 return holidays to the UK, snow skiing, Christmas holidays all over New South Wales, 10-pin bowling, Wednesday tennis group with friends, and a variety of other activities. In 2017, Pat was feeling unwell and she was admitted to hospital at Liverpool for tests. These tests confirmed the worst possible news. Pat was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer caused by asbestosis, and she was given a 6 to 9 month life expectancy. Pat underwent chemotherapy with limited success, but with all of its side effects. In 2018, a new gene therapy was undertaken which shrunk the cancer and rendered it almost dormant. Pat regained some weight with her health remaining stable for over 4 years. In December of 2022, Pat was again taken ill and admitted to Campbelltown Hospital as it became clear that after nearly 5 years, the cancer had finally become active again. After a 3-week stay in hospital, we were lucky enough to have Pat home for Christmas, where she spent a memorable Christmas day eating prawns and pavlova with family and friends. However, on New Year's Eve, she was again admitted to hospital, where she quickly deteriorated. She was then moved to the palliative care unit at Camden Hospital, where she was able to rest surrounded by beautiful gardens. In her last days, she was surrounded constantly by family and close friends at her bedside. On Wednesday night, the 11th of January 2023, at 10:34 p.m, Pat slipped away peacefully in her sleep with her daughter-in-law Lee by her side. Pat was a remarkable woman. She lived a full and happy life surrounded with the love of her family and friends. She was a wonderful wife to Bill, mother to her 2 sons, mother-in-law to Lee, and a loving grandmother to Kieran, Alicia and Ashley. She made friends everywhere and never had a bad word to say about anyone. This world has been left a better place due to the life of Patricia. She will be deeply missed. If you hear the sound of a kettle boiling in the background, it's probably just Pat making a nice cup of tea. Rest in peace, Pat. And thank you so much for all of those beautiful words and memories. I would now like to ask Jeffrey to come forward and share some of his words.
Right, who'd like a cup of tea? I'll go and put the kettle on. If you're sitting in this room, you would have heard Auntie Pat say those words. And it wasn't, I'm sure there was times too that after those cups of tea were washed up that Auntie Pat would say again, who'd like another cup of tea? And we'd do it all again. I've known Auntie Pat for a long time, and I will sort of recapture on some of the words that have been said before, but just from my experience. I remember Auntie Pat just talking about little things when she grew up in London, and obviously growing up in London in those times would have been pretty hard for a little kid with the war and that. And I find it hard to think that Auntie Pat would actually do anything wrong, but I remember her talking about milk bottles. So the milk would freeze out the front of people's houses, and her and her friends would go along and bite the top off the milk bottles and enjoy the frozen milk that was on top of the bottles. Early April, the 1st of April 1966, Uncle Bill and Auntie Pat and Chris, being a little fella, decided that there was a better life in Australia, and off they set. And yes, I often remember Auntie Pat saying how sick she was. For 6 weeks she was seasick, and I believe spent most of the time up on deck, bit of fresh air, hoping to sight land or just get off the boat. I'm not really sure. The only time that she wasn't sick was going down the Suez Canal. Obviously things were a little bit calmer. Uncle Bill had come over for work. I believe that he was working for Maori Brothers, where my dad was working at the same time as well, and they got a little unit at Neutral Bay. And I do recall, in the back of my memory, visiting this unit. I remember going up the stairs. That's where they all kicked off. But just prior to that, Dad came home. We were living at Bexley, 1966, and Dad came home and said to Mum, there's a young fella, his wife and their little fella have just moved out from England. They don't know anybody. How about we invite them around for dinner? So around they came, had dinner. I don't remember much about it. I do, however, Mum telling me that obviously Chris was there. He was a little bit younger than me, and I made the comment after they went, does that little boy have to come back again? So I don't know, he might have broken one of my toys or he's done something, but I'm pretty glad that he did come back. You know, from then on, it was just, if it wasn't at our place, we're at the Jacksons. Steve was there a little bit longer. Growing up, Chris and Steve were just brothers. Auntie Pat was, you know, another mother. I find it hard to believe that we didn't do anything wrong, but I know that Auntie Pat never ever went mad on us, whether she didn't see what we did or whatever. Just through life, holidays. Oh, we went up the north coast to Urunga, caravanning. We went to Foster. We used to go down the coast to Manana, have holidays down there. And again, there'd be cups of tea and things like that. And I sort of go back to when, you know, the Jacksons moved out from England. It must have been pretty hard packing up everything that you owned and wanted to take in a couple of suitcases, but I'm sure Auntie Pat had a teapot in that suit bag somewhere. Yeah, just the memories of things that we've done. And yeah, Auntie Pat was always helping someone. She was her church and anything to do with the church in helping people. It just went on from there. And, you know, our weddings, you know, Chris was my best man. I was in his wedding party. Auntie Pat and Uncle Bill and Steve were there. Whatever big event was in our life, it was the Jacksons were there. Again, it just seemed like every weekend we're either at Cherry Avenue, Carlingford, or they were at our place at Bathurst Street, Gymea, or at Sylvania. I recall the first weekend I had my licence. Where was I going to drive to? The Jacksons, of course. So I guess Chris and Steve were pretty keen. Jeff's coming over with his car. We can all go driving. I remember we went and picked up Auntie Pat from church. I don't know if you guys remember, but we picked her up from church. I had a little Mini. Auntie Pat got in the back. We drove home, and she would have fed us because Auntie Pat was always about making sure no one was going to go hungry. Oh, like there's just so much and so much and so much. Auntie Pat's baked dinners, they were legendary. Not for the meat, whether it be lamb or beef, not for the greens, not for the beans, the potato, for beans or peas or anything like that, but it was the potatoes. So if you haven't had one of Auntie Pat's baked dinners, the potatoes are a little bit different. She'd mash the potatoes, she'd let them cool, she'd make them into balls, and then she'd roll them in, I don't know, I can't recall exactly what it was, but I think it was like a spiced stuffing that you'd use to stuff chickens with. Well, she'd roll the potatoes in this stuffing and then she'd bake them. Well, they were to die for. So give them a go. They were pretty good. You know, obviously as the times go on, we all sort of, you know, Chris and Steve get their lives and families, and we grow up and everyone moves out. And sadly, I guess you don't catch up with everyone like you used to, but I talk to Mum and, you know, every couple of days like you do with your parents. But one of the things I'd always say to her, Mum, have you been talking to Auntie Pat? How are the Jacksons, you know? So Mum would go, oh, you know, Auntie Pat's been doing this and Uncle Bill's doing this, and yeah, the boys are good, and blah, blah, blah. We'd go on from there. And, you know, I went and saw Auntie Pat just before Christmas, which was just a lovely thing to do. She even thanked me a little bit because she wasn't that hungry, but a lunch came in. Everyone's going, Pat, have something to eat. She's going, I'll be right. And I said, hey, if Auntie Pat doesn't want to have lunch, she doesn't have to have lunch. And she's gone, thank you, Jeffrey, for sticking up for me. If I don't want to have lunch, everyone listen to Jeffrey. So that was a great little moment. But just an absolute beautiful woman that would have done anything for anyone. And for me, that was 57 years of my life, which is a long time. And apart from her parents, there was no one else in my life longer than Auntie Pat. Now it's Uncle Bill. And, you know, I'm glad Chris came back. Even when I said, you know, I don't want this little boy coming back again. So, but a little saying that I heard quite a few years ago, I'll try and get this out, and there's not many women in my life, but one of the sweetest women I ever kissed was another man's wife. That was Auntie Pat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I now have some words to share on behalf of Alicia, Ashley and Kieran, Pat's grandchildren. This is from Alicia on behalf of the 3 grandchildren. My Nana. We were so blessed to have had such an amazing, caring and loving Nana. I remember I used to tag along with you to collect the little old ladies for church on a Sunday. At the age of 3 one Sunday, we set off and we picked up a few ladies. On the way to the church, I piped up in the back, Nana, are we going to pick up any more old chooks today? Nanny, you nearly choked in the driver's seat. You tried to explain to me that it wasn't the right thing to say, but now we look back on it and laugh. I was from then on banned from the Sunday pickup. We loved to have sleepovers with you and Grandad. Every night you would tuck me in. You would tell me to lay flat as a board and you would tuck the sheets in so tight that I couldn't move. 27 years later, I'm still tucking the sheets in as tight as possible, much to Joel's disappointment. Every school holidays, you and Grandad would let us choose any location in Sydney to visit for a day. We would get up early, pack lunch and hop on the train to our destination. This included places such as the Maritime Museum, Taronga Zoo, Sydney Aquarium, Centre Point Tower and any other attraction that you can imagine. We've done it all. You would line the 3 of us up and write your phone number on our arms. As we got older, it became a joke that we should start writing our number on yours and Grandad's arms, so if we lost you, you wouldn't forget our numbers. We did so many amazing things thanks to you and Grandad. You've been there our whole lives and we will always cherish all the amazing times we have had. You were the best nanny ever and we will forever love and miss you. Love, Ashley, Alicia and Kieran. And thank you all for those beautiful words. Following our service here this morning, you'll all have the wonderful opportunity to share your own stories and memories of the time spent with Pat by joining with the family in some light refreshments. This gathering will be held at the tea rooms here on the grounds of Forest Lawn and everyone is most welcome to attend. Now, as a loving visual tribute to Pat, we'd like to show you some wonderful photos of her scattered throughout her life on the overhead screen.
am down, and oh, my soul so weary. When troubles come, and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. When I am on your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep through my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, and weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here. So tired of the straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's vultures and thieves at your back. The storm keeps on twisting, keep on building lies that you make up for all that you lack. Don't make no.
I would now like to invite Pat's family to come forward and place a floral tribute on her casket, at which time we invite everyone else to come forward and place a flower.
In this sweet madness, all this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark cold hotel room. I
And so we are now left behind with many memories, but certainly with lives that are more fuller, more loving and far more satisfying, because we have known and loved and have been loved by Patricia Jackson. As we give thanks for Pat's life, we know that we now must go on without her. It is important that you talk about her often and enjoy the memories that you have of her, just as we have done here today. Those moments are bound to bring you all some comfort on the lonely road ahead. Could I please ask those of you who are able at this time to kindly stand for the words of the committal. Pat's memory is already committed, safe to our hearts. Her loves and ideals are committed to our minds. Her body we now send to its natural end, to be returned to the great cycle of nature. With heavy hearts and with the greatest of sadness, we now commit and say goodbye to our loved one and very dear friend, Patricia Jackson. Thank you so for loving me. You know I love you too. That's why it's hard to say goodbye and end this life with you. So hold me now just one more time and let me hear you say, because you care so much for me, you'll let me go today. Pat, we now leave you in peace, and with the utmost respect, we bid you farewell. If you, who knew Pat, can learn from her experience, if you can profit from her example, if you can live a little better for having known her, then this will give continuing purpose to her life and will be a living memorial to her. May you find strength and support in your love for one another, and may you find peace in your hearts. Thinking of Pat, let us leave this place today in quietness of spirit and live in harmony one with the other.